Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna start in a few moments. Gonna give it a beat to let people fill out the registration form if they didn't do it ahead of time.
Always tricky.
And in the meantime, I would love for folks to share in the chat what parish they're tuning in from. What parish are y'all coming in from?
Welcome to the folks that have just joined. Samantha has asked that people put what parish they're joining from in the chat.
All right, y'all, we're going to start in just one more minute. Gonna give folks one more minute to make it into the room before we get started. All right, y'all. Let's get this ball rolling, shall we? Hello. Welcome to the Candidate Forum for the Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor election. My name is Samantha Flournoy, and I am the Regional Director of the New Orleans Food Policy Council. And before we get started, I'd like to just give a moment for my colleagues to introduce themselves. They will be supporting me in facilitating this forum. Margie, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Glad to see so many faces tonight. Glad to see so much civic participation. I am Margie Green or Marguerite Green, and I am the statewide director of the Louisiana Food Policy Council. I'll pass it back to you, Sam.
All right. And then Alyssa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Alyssa Munoz, and
So they got a good election going on. Oh, really?
I am the Director of Development and Strategy for Louisiana Food Policy Council. I will also be the person muting you.
All right, thank you, y'all. So before we get started, I just have a few housekeeping notes to share to ensure that we are creating a really smooth and welcoming environment. So first of all, there are three food policy staff members. We just introduced ourselves, and there actually might be a few more who are just joining as audience members who will probably jump in if they notice that we need a little bit of help. You can tell that they are staff members because they have the acronym FPC at the end of their name. Feel free to reach out to any of those folks if you have any questions or concerns throughout the session. Um, while we also invite you to rename yourself with a name that you would like to be referred to. For the most part, everyone will stay on mute unless you are a candidate or myself as the facilitator. And if we have enough time, we might invite you or ask directly of you to do something, maybe even mute yourself. So please be sure to rename yourself by the name you would like to be referred to. If you are press, we ask that you rename yourself so that it is your name plus press at the end of your name. And you can rename yourself by hovering over your picture or your video, clicking the three dots on the upper right hand corner, and then clicking rename. All right. And then feel free to also include your pronouns or whatever it is that you need to feel comfortable and feel present in the space. And with that, as far as the format for tonight, we have prepared three questions for each of the candidates to answer. They will both answer these questions. They will start off by introducing themselves, going back and forth and answering these questions. And then throughout the session, we invite you to drop questions into the chat by sending them directly to Margie, who is waving right now. If we have time, toward the end, we will organize and sift through those questions and then pose them to the candidates to answer. This, I want to emphasize, is a learning and environment for curiosity, not necessarily a debate. So we ask that everyone respect one another, and remain muted, to sort of respect and allow the candidates to kind of just share their desires and expectations, and provide sort of like information for us all to make a informed decision this weekend. All right. Lastly, if there are any technical glitches or interruptions during this session, we ask that everyone log off and then just log back on so that we can continue on. And with that, we will get started. And actually, I'm just going to check. Margie, Alyssa, did you notice that I've missed anything? Okay, cool. I'm doing my job, y'all. All right, so before I have the candidates introduce themselves, I just want to give a very quick overview of why we're here. So, the Soil and Water Conservation District is a local entity designed to help communities care for their land and water, usually in the form of technical assistance to landowners. These districts work with farmers, landowners, and residents to promote the responsible use and protection of natural resources like soil, water, forests, and wildlife. I am very excited to have the candidates introduce themselves because they are clearly interested in doing this job. And so I will have Erica Johnson start with just giving a quick overview of who she is. And then we'll follow that up with Lloyd. Thanks, y'all.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Erica Johnson. I am a registered Democrat and New Orleans resident. I am a mother and a small business owner. I own an urban farm in Orleans Parish called Petit Jardin, and I'm the current supervisor on the Crescent Soil and Water Conservation District. I have a strong connection to agriculture. My grandmother was a sharecropper in Mississippi. I have worked for a farmer technical assistance nonprofit for almost 60 years. I have taught the youth and worked with the elderly in agriculture in and around Orleans Parish. And I have been a committee member, a Lafitte Greenway ambassador. I have been a presenter at conferences to discuss agriculture, and I am very committed to continuing in my position.
Thank you, Erica. Lloyd, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, Lloyd, you're still muted. Here we go. Let's get you.
All right, how about now?
You're good.
I'm sorry, maybe I touched something. All right, my name's Lloyd Lawrence Landry IV. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Charles Parish. Married to my wife, Beth Petrie Landry, for the last 30 years. We have 3 children and 2 awesome grandbabies, and number 3 on the way. I'm a 1990 graduate of Hornville High School. I've been a charter captain in Plaquemines Parish and now in Terrebonne Parish for going on 28 years now. This is my 28th summer. I'm the owner and operator of Outcast Fishing Charters. I've now taken a step back from being a full-time charter captain and started working for the St. Charles Parish Assessor's Office, which gave me some extra time in my life to actually have a life. And that's why I've gotten involved in trying to get on this board to hopefully promote coastal restoration and also, farming in, especially towards my two parishes at St. Charles and St. John the Baptist. But I participate in a lot of activities. I'm a Wish to Fish Louisiana volunteer sponsor. I'm a crew of Luling captain. I'm a member of the CCA, and I'm a lifelong outdoorsman. So that's about it. Me in a nutshell.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And so we'll start with the first question, which is, if elected, what work would you like to accomplish first? How has your experience prepared you to tackle those projects? And we'll start with you, Lloyd.
Okay. I've done some digging into things that this board has done, and one of the things that I would really like to see and make more emphasis on shoreline protection and coastal restoration. That's one of my biggest things that I've watched wash away over the last 28 years of my career and in my entire life, hunting and fishing in our local marshes. I could go on and list the lengths of shorelines that we have in here, but one of the projects that I was glad to see that they're working on is shoreline protection in Lake Pontchartrain. Between the 5 parishes alone, you have over 50 miles of roughly 50 miles of shoreline that if it does start eroding like it is in some places, we'll start having some issues. And I know this board had something to do recently with one of the projects that just took place. And, that's something that motivates me, trying to do more coastal restoration in our lakes and bays, which eventually goes into flood protection and hurricane protection for our communities. So basically that's where I'm driven.
Thank you. And Erica, same question. If elected, what work would you like to accomplish first? How has your experience prepared you to tackle those projects?
Yes. If elected, I would first like to start with increasing public visibility and awareness of the Crescent Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm sure many people are hearing about our district for the first time. And the more people that know of us, then there will be more people who can hold us accountable to the people that we serve. Our district deserves transparency and accountability. I have built a rapport over these last almost 3 years of serving on the board with farmers within our district. I've demonstrated my ability to resource share, specifically by connecting farmers to community resources that increase their market sales.
Great, thank you. Next question. What do you think is the role of farmers in conservation within our district? And we will start with you, Erica.
I believe that farmers are stewards of the land. Their livelihood and legacy depend on being good conservationists by nature. Oftentimes, farmers do this by nature and because best serving the land best serves themselves and each other. Most times, farmers see conservation issues first. And as a farmer, we are close. And staying close to farmers allows us to be the ears to which they can voice their concerns and tell us about what they see.
Okay, thank you. Lloyd, same question. What do you think is the role of farmers in conservation within our district?
Well, the role for the farmer, one is to protect our land, protection of the soil health, water quality, reduce erosion, runoff issues with pollutants, pesticides, protect wildlife. And, something that she touched on, and I agree with her so much, the transparency or the lack of information that possibly people can find in through this board, to help them with, irrigation for their property, or running a water line for their cows for a water trough. And the local farmers that I've spoke to, that I've known my entire life, when I talk to them about what this board does or has done for them, a lot of them didn't know and didn't have any idea that there's opportunities available for them. So that is something that I would definitely want to promote more, an avenue for these crop farmers, sugarcane farmers. Also, we have huge garden farms over here in St. Charles and St. John Parish, and these guys are very in touch and do a lot of stuff with the farmers market. And that's another thing that I'm glad I do see this board promote that a lot. And that's something that I'd want to definitely continue and try to amp up for our community, to know where all these venues are and the dates and avenues for residents to be able to go and go to these farmers markets and purchase these farmers crops.
All right, thank you. All right. And so, second to last question. What are the greatest threats that our district faces in protecting our natural resources? What are the greatest threats that our district faces in protecting our natural resources? And we will bring it back to you, Lloyd.
Okay. One is the biggest is hurricanes and coastal flooding. Without having our interior marshes strong and healthy, that's our barrier against this coastal flooding and tidal surges. And that's definitely something that is our biggest threat. And I mean, that goes all the way to your flood insurance on your home, which is skyrocketing and people can't even afford. So, maybe through projects, that can help all the way back to your pocket with your flood insurance. Another thing that I've learned about here lately, and I've learned this through our assessor's office, is there's this huge push in industry for carbon captioning, and industries are being pushed towards that by the federal government, and getting a lot of pushback from residents, one, because they don't understand it. And that's definitely something that I would steer myself, and hopefully this board, to being more inactive, because with this carbon caption, depending which way it goes is depending how industry would come to our communities. So, I know that and that has a lot to do with our soil and water. So those are a few things that, I feel are important.
Thank you. And then Erica, same question. What are the greatest threats that our district faces in protecting our natural resources?
Some of the greatest threats that I believe our district faces stem from lack of information and resources. What people do not know, they cannot implement, and what people do not have, they cannot enact. As a locally led board that acts as a liaison to landowners in between organizations like NRCS and USDA, we connect landowners to federal resources, and community connection puts them on the front lines of resource threats, such as land erosion, water retention, and coastal degradation.
All right. So I did say second to last question only because I want to give y'all an opportunity to just freely share why you believe you are appropriate and like why folks should vote for you. Like, what is the sort of stance or role or sort of thing that you want to make sure is conveyed to voters this weekend about why you are passionate about this role? And so I'll go back to Erica and then we'll round it out with Lloyd before we open the floor to questions.
I believe I am the best candidate for this position because I am in Orleans Parish, and I am the only candidate that represents urban farming. The rest of the entire board has ties to rural farming, and urban farmings, garden farming, and small farms in general are currently represented with my seat on the board, but are in jeopardy of not having a voice. Like there was no voice before I was on the board, and they're in jeopardy of losing that voice if I do not continue my term.
All right. And then Lloyd, what are any last words you'd like to share with the voters? Why are you a good choice for this role?
I feel my knowledge and my passion for the outdoors and our environment and our marshes and swamps. I mean, that's where I grew up. I have so much passion and love for it. I made a living feeding my family 28 years out of that marsh that I'm going to work for. But I also believe that these farmers do need help. And like I said earlier, having these farmers markets is a great avenue for these people to be able to sell their vegetables. But I mainly got into this because of coastal restoration issues, and I want to be able to hopefully restore and keep that intact for not only my kids but my grandchildren. So that's me.
Thank you. Well, though that is the end of our prepared questions for the candidates, we have been inviting you all to submit questions directly to Margaret Green or to Alyssa so that we can compile those questions and direct them. Feel free to continue to message those questions to them or to myself. And we'll start with the first question. Margie, do you need me to jump in? Okay, perfect. Margie will take it from here then.
Yeah, the first question that we have is with both candidates wanting to increase accountability and transparency, what metrics or benchmarks would you use to elevate the board's success in conservation efforts? And I guess let's go to Erica first.
Would you mind repeating the question one more time? Just
Sure,
for
and
clarity?
I'll drop it in the chat as well. So it's hi, with both candidates wanting to increase accountability and transparency, what metrics or benchmarks would you use to elevate the board's success in your conservation efforts? And y'all, I just want both candidates to know we gave you guys some questions in advance. If y'all need to take a beat, please take care of your brains and yourselves. Take a breath and think these through to both of you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Some benchmarks that I believe we would use would be within the public visibilities that I spoke about earlier. Attending more public events, tabling at events to be able to receive the public's feedback. Also hosting field days with equipment that we have got. Since I've been on the board, I've helped get access to large equipment pieces for rural farmers, and also start a low-cost tool rental library for small and emerging farmers. And I think that access to those tools, we would be able to see just how much of a mark we are actually making. Excuse my noises in the background.
Thank you so much. And I think many of us have kids running around behind us, Lloyd. I know you said you have family around too. So, yeah, same question to you, Lloyd.
Uh, I would like to see more growth. This when you look into what this board does and what opportunities it provides, it's really hard. It was for me to kind of figure out what direction it's going, what type of projects they're working on, and I did do a little legwork, and I went out and actually talked to a couple of our county agents, and I think there needs to be more communication between all of these different entities that provide services and also work on these projects, whether it's farming projects or it's restoration projects. It's the lack of communication, I think, or lack of information that this board provides. And I've looked and see where, it comes down to dollars. Everything comes down to dollars. And as things get tight and money gets cut, it's hard for for you to direct money into certain projects. But I think with growing local community knowledge about this board and the opportunities that it would provide to people is a very important factor.
Thanks, Lloyd. And I want to apologize to people. I was spotlighting before I started answering questions. And or asking questions, when I started asking questions, I stopped spotlighting who was speaking. So my apologies. Somebody else is on it now. We have a press question. Okay, wait, let me look at my order of operations first. Okay, so we have, what do you see as key barriers facing both urban and rural farmers? And if elected, how would you work to support each group? Erica, can you take that one first?
Yes, and can you repeat it again for
Absolutely,
clarity?
and I'll put it in the chat as well. What do you see as the key barriers facing both urban and rural farmers? And if elected, how would you work to support each group? That's in the chat now for our candidates.
Key barriers for urban and rural farmers. I hate to echo what I've said previously, but I really do believe that information and resources are some of the key barriers that are within the district's abilities to address directly. There are several programs out currently now that farmers and landowners can access, but do they know about them? That I cannot, specifically say without us as the board members being able to relay that information out. I think that ways that we could specifically support both urban and rural farmers do come down to dollars, as Lloyd mentioned. And within my tenure on the board, I have stepped into the treasurer role. And specifically within the last year, I have done a lot of digging to completely understand what resources the board has available to landowners and being able to release those funds so that they can be accessible more readily once we understand what people need to be able to easily help filter landowners to more resources.
Thank you, Erica. And Lloyd, same question. What barriers do you see as the key barriers to facing both urban and rural farmers? And if elected, how would you support each group?
Probably, it all comes down again, like I said, money. Giving people more and easier opportunities to apply for grants, more collaboration among farmers. I couldn't even imagine having to provide my family just off of God's green earth. It's got to be a struggle. Knowing that the couple farmers that I do know, they don't just farm. That's just a side hustle for some of them. But if you had an easier avenue for people to apply for grants, I think that's definitely something. I said it in the question before. It's just about getting information to these people. In today's world, everything's at your fingertips. But looking into how all of this operates, it was difficult to find out like exactly what programs were available for these people. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest barriers, getting information to these individuals, and then making it easier for them to apply for grants or whatever services that they would be available to get.
Thank you both for those answers. Our next question is from a member of the press. I'm going to tweak it a little bit because we really want to be able to kind of give both candidates a chance to highlight things. So it's, what does each one of you individually want to do differently from the board's current leadership? And for Erica, I know you're on the board, so maybe that would be in what do you want to do going into your next potential term? And for Lloyd, it's how would you like to do something differently than what is currently happening? And let's go ahead and start with Erica.
Yes, thank you. I think that's a really great question, because I think that really we have seen with my appointment in 2022 that there has begun to be a shift in the board. And in general in farming, a lot of farmers are aging out. They're choosing not to continue, or they're at the point of retirement. And there's a new generation of farmers that are coming in that really represent the youth and young people. And I think having representation like that on the board is important so that we can see where the mind frame is at. Specifically, we do focus a lot on coastal restoration because it is a gigantic issue for the districts the parishes that we serve. And in that, there are opportunities for farmers to submit bids to essentially grow the vegetation that we use for replantings. And I have seen, since I've been on the board, that has been very siloed to certain companies that provide that. And I think that one of the things that is my goal is to shift things like our vegetative planting opportunities to a much broader and wider scope of residents.
Thank you. And Lloyd, same question for you. So what do you want to do differently from the board's current leadership?
I can agree with her on the fact that it probably, like most things, a lot of the same people and companies tend to get the same projects and the same work, and make sure that it's fair across the board for everyone to have an opportunity. I know certain things, there's only certain farmers that are growing your particular grass for a particular project, which, those projects, that grass is engineered in an engineering scope of the whole job. But one thing that just from talking to a lot of people about how this board has operated in the past, that the communication and involvement with the board members with all the parishes, from St. Bernard to St. John, they all have the same issues, just some are bigger than others in certain parishes. And I would like to see the fairness of the coastal restoration work and the help for farmers and go across the board. Some parishes have more than others in all aspects. So I just want it to be fair, and also just make sure that, on the accountability side, it's not the same groups of people, companies that are getting projects or work done in certain areas.
Thank you, Lloyd. Okay, so our next question comes from an urban farmer. The question is, as a small urban farmer and community gardener, what can this committee and these candidates do for me? And before, I'm going to ask you, Lloyd, to start. Before we jump into this, I'm going to say that I'm seeing some logistical questions about the election come up in the chat. So if folks want to add those too, we can give our candidates a moment to breathe after this question and answer some quick logistics about the election, and then we can go back into questions because I think we have enough time to answer some of those quick hit, who can vote, that kind of stuff. I see some of it's been answered, but if anyone has a logistical question, hit us with it. And Lloyd, would you take it away?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm reading it again.
Yeah.
As a small community. I mean, look, I have a garden in my backyard. I grow all kind of stuff, and it's kind of like peace for me in the afternoons. Get we need to get kids involved outside, man, and growing a garden in your backyard with your family is a cool thing to do. And then the reward is you're eating cucumbers and tomatoes and bell peppers and squash and green beans that you grew yourself, and there's a feel of satisfaction. So I mean, as far as I know there's 4-H programs and all, but I don't know strategically how all of that works with trying to get involvement with kids in schools, and that would be something definitely to look into. As far as a small urban farmer, depending on how much you have, get involved with farmers markets. There's, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, and they're cool as can be. You can get involved with that farmers market and go there and sell some of your produce. That's, I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Lloyd. Erica, same question. As a small urban farmer and community gardener, what can this committee and these candidates do for me?
Yes. Urban farming is on the rise. It has recently been, recognized by the USDA, and I do understand what the board can do. Having sat on the board for a few years now, I am aware of the abilities that we have and the connections that we have. In that, we partner with organizations like NRCS that work specifically with landowners to offer them things like irrigation, to help them with fencing, to help them with water troughs for their animals, to help them with erosion issues. And so specifically being at the center of the board, I would be able to hear new projects and new initiatives that are coming up and trickling down from the USDA, and being able to be a voice to get that information to landowners faster. If you don't already have a relationship with NRCS, we can help promote that or encourage information about it by actively participating in community events. On the farmers market tip that Lloyd spoke about, I with the nonprofit that I work at, I work in the markets division of that nonprofit. And so I have been able to work with landowners and give them information and offer them outlets through farmers markets that serve northern Louisiana, southern Louisiana, and even crossing state lines into Mississippi.
Thank you both for your answers. I have some logistical questions. Give you guys a moment to reset and hear about, frankly, your weird election that you're both in. So a logistical question that I received through DM is, there are rumors that each polling site will only have 300 paper ballots. Is that true? As of right now, that is what we understand to be true. That is, yeah, we have been officially communicated that. It's not printed anywhere, but that is when we made an inquiry. That is what we were told. And that this election does not have any pre-existing infrastructure. And so essentially the board is having to architect their own sort of election infrastructure as they go. So that was a logistical question we had. We also have, okay, so as Lori said in the chat, we're not clear on what that means when those 300 ballots run out, if the polling centers then close, or if the polling centers just have to stay open and turn people away. I will say we do not know the answer to that. We have who can vote. Can registered voters in St. John Parish vote? Registered voters in St. John Parish can vote, but they have to choose the polling location that they're going to go to in another parish. So the only locations for polling sites are St. Charles, Orleans, and Jefferson. Would someone else from our team drop those polling locations into the chat? Voters from the parishes that I listed must vote within their parish. Voters from the list of parishes that the board itself serves and who do not have a polling location in their parish may choose what parish they would like to go to. And we've got the list of polling sites right over here is now in the chat. Do the candidates have websites? I'm going to look at both the candidates. I think I know this having researched you both and stuff. Why does that always happen to me? You both don't have websites. Is that right? Correct. You both don't have websites. Okay. And then can we just vote in both candidates? They both have strong and different qualifications. The answer is no. You are voting for one seat. But we do have a question. I received oh, wait, hold on. Another logistics question in the chat. Does that mean that only that many people are allowed to vote? What if we get there after 300? Yes. If you get there after 300 ballots, you are not able to vote. You could possibly go to another polling location within the parish. We're hopeful that polling locations will be communicative with each other and be able to say that you can go to another one, but we don't understand whether or not that election infrastructure will exist. So yes, as of right now, if you come after that 300 mark, you will not be able to vote. And so I think you should take that as an incentive to get a coffee and a bagel and go vote early in the morning, please, so that your voice gets to be heard. Everyone, always go vote early and often. Great. So we're going back to candidate questions.
There's a few more.
Oh,
There's a
I'm
few
sorry.
more logistical questions. That's okay.
I'm flipped into DMs because
Yes.
it's like kind of funky how the DMs
Yeah.
look.
Okay. So the logistical questions are, and you may have answered this one. I apologize if you did. Can anyone who is a resident vote, or do you need to be a registered voter? And how are they checking voter registration? Do we know? And then the last one is, how will we find out the results of the election?
These are all great questions. And I'm actually going to encourage, I will tell everyone what I currently understand to be true from asking these questions. If our candidates actually have more up-to-date information as candidates, I ask them to correct me. So starting at the top, you must be a registered voter to vote. And next, wouldn't they have to make more ballots? Currently, the answer that we have been given to that is no. And then how will we find out the results of this election? The current answer that we have to that is there's no way that we know that answer yet, but it will be announced. And then how are they checking voter registration? The current answer to that is that they do not have a voter registration cross-checking plan that we're aware of at this moment. And then any polling places on the West Bank? No. This sounds odd. We admit that it also does sound odd. Yeah, it's a very unprecedented election. What time does voting begin? 8 a.m. Voting begins 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like I said, we are not clear on what happens when those ballots run out. We would hope that everybody get out and vote in all parishes early enough that those polling locations are closed by noon. 300 ballots is really not that much to ask of our communities to go out and vote. So we're not clear on what happens once those 300 ballots are over, but go out and vote early. Any more logistical questions for us?
Nothing popped up in the chat since you took those on. Thank you.
Great. I got another DM one. Can go vote on Louisiana? Yeah. So this person said, that there's the Go Vote wallet on Louisiana Wallet. So that's a great suggestion, and we will offer that up to the board. In terms of how they might check voter registration, is that there's the digital Go Vote wallet. We're not at this point uh, aware, like it does not seem that they will be tracking that voter registration real time. So I think, yeah, that's great. All right, so the next question that we have, which is for our candidates, is why did each candidate not choose to apply for the vacant seat? Or did either of you try to get the empty seat? Okay, so I will put that in the chat. And let's start with, I think I started with Lloyd last. Erica, would you start?
I understand everybody's confusion on this election because it is very unprecedented. There are 44 districts in Louisiana, 44 soil and water conservation districts. Crescent District, which we are all in, is the largest of the district as we have 5 parishes. However, this board itself has never seen an election. There have only been 6 other elections in the state's history, and the boards began in the 1930s. Typically, they have seen those. 3 of those 6, by the way, were within the same parish that are within the same district that those took place. And because I think one of the things that I've noticed and I've asked myself is why is like the Secretary of State not, why is this not on their website? And the answer that I got from asking the Assistant Commissioner of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts is because this is a locally led board of citizens. It is left in the hands of the board members to be able to put on the selection and move forward in that way. It's not run by the state. That being said, I have some of the same questions that you guys have because I don't get to be privy to any of the information about the election because I am running myself. We had an open seat on the board for quite some time, 3 or 4 months. We had an open seat. In April, I went on maternity leave, and during that meeting of the board, against my recommendation, they appointed a new board member, and then less than 30 days after that, I received information that the seat that I was asking to continue in was being challenged. So that's to answer the question.
Thank you. And Lloyd, why did you choose, I guess, yeah, trying to figure out how to word it. So why did you not choose to apply for that vacant seat, or would you try to get an empty seat?
Well, originally when I was asked, so I'm on a board for Farm Bureau, St. Charles Parish Farm Bureau, and it was either, I don't remember if it was our first quarter meeting, it was either in February or March, and they had come and inquired from, and this is with farmers, and I represent fishermen on this board, and they asked if anyone was interested in getting on this board. And when I started asking about what it was about, I didn't know it was an elected position, appointed. I didn't know, and I just said yes, I'd be interested because with my new job, my new role, I went from fishing 200 days a year to having a job where I'm free in the evenings, and I said, I have some time. I'd like to get involved in something for the community, and after a while, then I found out I'm running for a seat. So and it just evolved from here. The sucky thing is listening to Miss Johnson. I'd love to work with her with a lot of stuff that she's doing. So I'm in this now with both feet in the fire, and if I'm blessed enough to win, I'll do my best to serve all 5 parishes. But like I said, originally, I didn't know whether it was a voted or appointed position. So, and here we are now today.
Thank you both for those answers. And interestingly enough, I will say I do believe there are other seats that will become open on this board at some point. So it's good to hear that you both have such passion and interest in this role because that means the community could win by having more seats on this board in the future. Okay, so our next question is, um, Are either of the candidates familiar with the universal rights of rivers? If so, how might they connect to the shore restoration and Mississippi pollution? Sorry. Lloyd, would you answer first?
I'd be honest. I'd have to Google and see what that is about. I'll say I do. I I know the power of the Mississippi River. I fished out of Buras and Venice for 20 something years. I watched the river rebuild itself in a lot of areas where my duck lease was off on the east side of the Mississippi River, where naturally the river at high river it blew out and washed away rocks and cuts and ended up silting in a lot of our duck marsh that we had leased. And the river is such it's the main artery of this country and in our estuary. And there's a lot that the river can do. I know there's a lot of issues with the restoration work and the diversion stuff down the river. And I live right here by the Davis plant, Davis diversion. So as far as the universal rights of the river, I'm really not familiar with that. I would have to look into that. But I do know how important the Mississippi River is to our community, not only for marsh and our restoration issues, but also for our shipping and the well-being of our entire New Orleans area.
Thank you, Lloyd. Same question to Erica. Are you familiar with the universal rights of rivers? And if so, how might they connect this to shore restoration and Mississippi pollution?
I am not familiar with this topic, but I do think it brings a great point of opportunity for growth within the board because waterways are under our scope of interest and are a natural resource. I think that open communication like this will help bring these opportunities for growth to the board to address. So I would like to say that all this is a public space, and every meeting that the Crescent Soil and Water Conservation District has, every monthly meeting they have, is a public space. And I think that with ideas and with concerns and with thoughts that the public has, that don't let this be the only time that you voice what you believe to be important for the parish that you live in. Please go to a meeting or send your inquiries via email to the meeting so that you can bring topics to our attention that we may, that may be new to us.
I want to just commend both candidates for being honest about not knowing something. What a lovely and refreshing thing to hear from both of you. Our next question is, how will you use your position to specifically address the urban farms and food deserts throughout the district? This is going to be our last question tonight. We have 6 minutes left, so I know this is a complex topic, just don't take more than 3 minutes each. And Lloyd, would you go first?
Could you show me the question again? I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm pressing enter right now. It's how will you use your position I'm trying to specifically address the urban farms and food deserts throughout the district?
I don't know. I guess once again I'll go back to these farmers and farmers markets. It's a small scale, but it man, if and I know everyone on this forum has gone to a farmer's market, but they're all different. They all give small farmers opportunities. I saw where somebody was asking about that there's more there's more opportunities than just farmers markets, but someone on a small scale, not really. There isn't, because of so many regulations. You just can't go and take your big basket of tomatoes and cucumbers and go to Winn-Dixie and go sell them. So that the farmers market gives those people those avenues to sell their products. and just, communication with people. That is just what I see as the biggest issue, where people, when you talk to them, they don't know where to find information or how, or they haven't put out enough information for people to find it. In today's world with social media, everyone has everything at your fingertips, so that's basically what I would try to just make sure there's more communication and easier opportunities for people to find information.
Thank you so much for that. Erica, how will you use your position on this board to specifically address the urban farms and food deserts throughout the district?
Yes, I do believe that urban farming is a very important part of farming. I'm really appreciative that the USDA has finally agreed and that urban farming is getting recognized and more resource allocation. In that, I would say that community building and resource sharing are ways specifically that urban farmers can begin to address food deserts in their area. Farmers markets are a big part of how food gets to people, but they are not the only way. Small farmers can collaborate with other farmers to work with restaurants and to work with community groups that offer other food distributions. Being able to legitimize yourself as a business, if that's the avenue that you choose as an urban farmer. Doing something like gaining a small amount of insurance allows you to be able to sell your products to customers, even from outside your farm residence. So specifically, I think that it's really crucial, and I think that although it would be great if this board, just as a soil and water conservation district, could have its hands in everything, the truth is that, like any organization, there are limits to what the board is capable of doing and to what any board member is going to be able to do. But the fact is that our position is to work with federal resources that are already in place and federal organizations that are meant to serve urban farmers and rural farmers. And so understanding what happens within those organizations under the USDA, under FSA, under NRCS, and then being able to help filter that information to farmers is one of the best ways for farmers to be able to then have the information in front of them and decide what works for them, and then seek out those opportunities and resources on their own accord.
Thank you so much, Erica, for that response. And thank you, Lloyd, for your response. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for taking the time to learn about our candidates. Um, I will close us out by just encouraging you all to encourage others, because I'm sure all of y'all are going to be out there at your polling location at 8 a.m. with your bagel and coffee or tea or whatever it is you need to get through and vote at your polling location. Please be sure to tell someone you know who might not know about this and share information, y'all. Um, your presence is such a present. Thank you so much for being here. We will hold back in case anyone has any logistical questions around voting. Feel free to visit the nolafoodpolicy.org website. We do have a guide about the soil and water conservation, which we can try and drop in the chat as folks are leaving. But just visit our website, go to reports. There will be some guidance. Feel free to email any of us if you have questions. Thank you again and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, candidates.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you guys for attending. We appreciate your involvement.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Y'all made this easy. So a lot easier on a nervous boy.
Thank you both. I know it's really a lot to be like on the spot with people. So great work to both of you.
All right, y'all. Good night. And I'll hold back just in case anyone has any questions. And the candidates feel free to hold back if you'd like to debrief anything.
I'm just hanging back with you because of mine as well.
All right, we good to go? I can leave?
Yes, if
All
you'd
right.
like, unless you need anything from us.
For your time.
No,
Thank
man.
you so
Man,
much,
thank you.
Lloyd.
You made this easy on me. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Y'all have
you.
a great
Have a
evening.
good night.
Yes, ma'am.
And happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Bye.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Louise?
Yes, I missed most of it, honestly, because I was at work, but I was wondering, any chance that you could repost this video? I don't know if it was recorded or not, or
It was recorded, and we will be sure to post it onto our YouTube and then share the link via our we will send the link out via email to folks who attended and then whoever registered.
that'd be great. And then
Yes.
I like to hear the whole thing from the very start. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, y'all. I'm just gonna check in and call names just to make sure y'all don't have any questions. So, Jody, Victoria, Michelle, Jordan, Angela, Nicholas, Naomi, do any of y'all have questions?
I don't. I just want to say thank you for hosting the event.
Yes, no problem. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful night.
Is it okay if I go?
Yeah, go for it. I think I'm gonna start.
Picking people out at some point. Oh, Naomi, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I missed the beginning of it. I apologize, but is it my understanding that there's an open seat, but for some reason two people are running for one seat? Is that what's happening?
Not quite. So there was an open seat that the incumbent would not have put herself up for because she was in a seat. So there's a logistical, an incumbent doesn't go for an open seat, an incumbent is in their seat.
Okay.
That the candidate Lloyd, who is the newer candidate, there's an incumbent and a newer candidate. The incumbent would not have gone for an open seat because she had a seat, and then Lloyd um, said that that was just not the seat that he was prepared or like set up to go for.
Posed for.
Yeah, that he was asked by the Farm Bureau, a board that he was on through the Farm Bureau, to run for this seat. There will be another seat opening up. That is, these seats are almost never contested, as you may have heard. This is the seventh time a seat has ever been contested in the entire state in nearly 100 years across 42 boards. So there will be an open seat coming up soon after this election. And so the answer that we got was, there's a person who's already occupying the seat, so it's not really their decision to challenge. And then with the new candidate, this is the seat that he was encouraged to run for by the Farm Bureau.
Just as a follow-up, is there any difference between the seats? Are they running for, does the seat have a special office? Like this seat does treasury, this seat does secretary, or they're all the same seat?
They're all the same seats. The incumbent is currently the treasurer of the board, which is a position that you can receive once you are on the board. It's not assigned to a seat, it's assigned to a person.
Okay. And so there is, in addition to the seat that we're voting on, there is an open seat out there, correct?
There will be an open seat. There is not
Okay.
currently another open seat. There is an open
Okay.
seat that will be coming up.
And when will it be open?
I'm Not actually sure. I think within a month or two. Is anyone else on the call sure about that timeline?
No.
No, but we can investigate. I'm sure we
Yeah,
can
we can
ask.
ask that
Yes.
question. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe this might not be the best question for you all, but do these folks have any decision-making power when it comes down to who gets the grants
Oh,
that they're putting out there from the feds?
that would be a question for them.
Okay.
A board does make those kinds of decisions.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't particularly answer that. I will say that I am a member of the county committee, which is another agricultural board, and that role does make decisions about who gets specific grants, but it is not the same role as this role. It's just a similar role.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Then, Nicholas, did you have any questions that we can answer?
I'm going to go ahead and put folks in the waiting room then, Samantha, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I was thinking.